Yes, people, it's Dave from Talking Walls once again. Hope you guys are keeping well. And we're approaching silly season, crazy in the football fixtures, but finally we're close to Christmas as well, where we can all, fingers crossed, settle down a little bit, recharge the batteries a little bit. For those who have got a little bit time off, a bit of time off like myself. But a little bit of an update, of course. We spoke a little bit about it on the podcast, which was released yesterday, but we had the news Tuesday evening that Wolves, for the foreseeable future, are going to be sticking with Gary O'Neill, which is quite surprising considering the results that we've had. I was adamant that he was going to go after the Everton game. I was even more so after the West Ham game this week. But it's obviously Wolves have struggled to find a head coach, and I resonate a little bit with some of the things that Gary said at the end of the West Ham game, but ultimately he's in charge of the team and the players, and at the moment it's not been good enough. You know, you can blame Fosun, the guys upstairs, but ultimately on the pitch, results aren't happening. I fully believe that the playing squad, with the playing squad that we've got, the results and the performances should be a hell of a lot better. But, you know, I suppose we've got to stick with him for now, try and keep the toxicity away from the players and the dugout for now. And I think we all sort of are starting to point the finger a little bit more at Fosun. But we did have an update today on the managerial search. And although they are sticking with Gary O'Neill for the foreseeable future, an article by The Athletic and Steve Madeley had pretty much said that since the last international break, Wolves have been sounding out potential managers to take over the job as head coach at Wolves. Now, some of these are quite intriguing because, again, we don't really know how far talks went. Last week it was reported that Graham Potter was the number one choice, and he had, of course, turned that down. It's been pretty well publicised by a couple of people, but on this article it said that he was one of the managers that Wolves looked at. David Moyes is another one. Lots of Premier League experience, probably the best alternative, probably best realistic, in my opinion, alternative to Graham Potter. Of course, he turned down the role as well. Now, three other managers that haven't really been linked too much. The first one has been mentioned by Wolves fans, Sergio Conceição. It's an obvious one with his links to Jorge Mendes and the Portuguese links, which people seem to be going back to all the time, of course. Former Porto manager on the free market at the moment after he left them sort of 12, 18 months or so ago. Would have been a nice appointment. I sort of said I would have preferred him. I would have preferred Moyes or Potter, over him, just purely because I don't, he's managed at the top level of a league where you should be winning a lot of games. I would have just had that little bit of caution with him coming into what would have been a relegation battle and trying to grab games by the scruff of the neck and try and grab a team that is down on morale and so on. Obviously, he's rejected us. Now, two of the ones that haven't really been suggested, but according to the Athletic, Wolves have at least approached them or approached their representatives. Massimiliano Allegri, which is a real stretch in my honest opinion. I managed some top clubs, managed Juventus for a long while. Probably, he's a manager that has been linked with many top jobs across the years. That would have been an unbelievable appointment for Wolves. So I can't believe that he's even been linked to Niko Kovac, who was the former Bayern Munich manager. Didn't really get the best of times at Bayern, but again, another manager. All five of them on free managers at the moment, but for whatever reason, they have rejected Wolves, but it's more than likely due to the self-sustainable model that Fosun have got in place at the moment. Now, there's obviously some money in the pot because there's some money that we've seen from the summer transfers. We sold Kilman, sold Neto. Yes, we brought players in, but there should still be a little pot of money there to spend. It's been publicised that Wolves are going to be prioritising the centre-back area. Some of the articles over the last day or so sort of made out maybe some more signings are on the way, which of course would be brilliant if there are. We may well see players move on, some players that haven't really had the best of times so far this season. But certainly, whatever money is available, it's sort of a catch-22 because these managers have obviously been told there's probably not 80, 90, 100 million that we sort of put to one side when we brought Lopetegui in, for argument's sake. But they're also going to be backing Gary O'Neill. But do you want to be heavily backing a manager that you aren't necessarily happy to keep at the club? Gary O'Neill at this point is just a glorified caretaker manager because he knows that Wolves ideally want somebody else in charge, but he's just there for the time being as in the interim. So it's going to be a really interesting January window. And a lot of scrutiny, and rightly so, is now on Fosun, because it's going to have to be, for both Gary O'Neill and Fosun, a hell of a U-turn to get these guys back on side. And the only way really they're going to do it is backing it up, talking the talk in the transfer window, talking the talk on the football pitch as well. For Gary O'Neill, the only way he's going to win back Wolves fans is to win football matches, and at the moment it's obviously not really happening. Another little piece of news today was regarding Nelson Semedo. Now his contract is up at the end of the season. Nelson, one of the higher earners at Wolves, and I think I mentioned this on a video previously a couple of weeks ago when it was sort of reported that it was very unlikely that he's going to be staying at Wolves. We've sort of seen the flip side to that today, where it's been reported by the Express and Star that Nelson Semedo is open to staying at Wolves, and Wolves ideally want to keep Nelson Semedo. Now, a lot of people would be saying, well, if the player wants to stay and Wolves want to keep him, what's the issue? Whereas, of course, there are a lot of factors in this. One is going to be Wolves' Premier League status. You know, no chance on earth you're going to have a player of Nelson Semedo's calibre and stock in the Championship. Also, finances good. Like I said, Nelson is one of the higher earners in this squad right now. In an ideal world, Wolves would want to try and nibble a little bit off that wage. Is that going to happen? Probably not. And there are suitors from across the world as well in other leagues that like Nelson Semedo. So that does put a little bit of pressure on Wolves to sort of come with a contract. If they're desperate to keep Nelson, come with a contract that is, acceptable. I honestly don't think this will be anything that's at least confirmed or announced until much, much later on in the season. And like I said previously, once Wolves' Premier League status is confirmed, unless he signs another year or 2 years and then just gives Wolves a little bit of sell-on value going into the Championship. But, sorry, if we get to the Championship, I'm just saying that assuming that we're going to go down. But, yeah, intriguing. Nelson's a good player. Definitely worth sticking around. Obviously not, maybe Pedro Lima isn't quite ready. Probably not as far as Wolves want him to be. But certainly, let's try and give the lad some chances where we can as well. But, yeah, nice little update for you guys. Let me know your thoughts, especially on those managers that were linked early today. Wolves obviously do have ambition, but I do think, as a lot of people will probably say, quite deluded if you think managers of that calibre are going to join us without any real backing or strategy to continue to strengthen the squad. As always, hit that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We're very close now to 18,000 subscribers, which is great. If we can hit that by Christmas, a bit ambitious, but it'd be fantastic if we can. And yeah, we'll be back for the Ipswich pre-match content on Friday. All the best then. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.